When Maria Righetti's husband Michael was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease at the unusually young age of 31, her life was turned upside down. Refusing to be beaten, Maria formed a support group and set herself a series of personal challenges to raise money and awareness. Her most recent was running 510Ks in 500 days.
When I was nominated for Scotswoman of the Year, I was overwhelmed, felt very undeserving of it, and very humbled, very humbled. We set up Michael's Movers in 2012, and obviously the driving force was Michael being diagnosed with Parkinson's, and we wanted to know where the money was going. So rather than just giving money to other charities for them to deal with it, we wanted to deal with it locally. So we wanted to donate to local hospitals, local groups, help individuals also. And we set up a social club with that to help Parkinson's sufferers and their carers, so they could interact with each other and get support from each other as well, and we also support them. Since the charity has been registered, we have raised approximately £100,000. The Monday Club is a social club for people to just have time out together, not think about the Parkinson's, and be at ease with each other with the symptoms because of all the problems they have with Parkinson's, the dyskinesia, the slowness of movement, the problems with walking. And when they're at our club, they don't worry about that because they're not seeing other people looking at them, so it's sort of enjoyable for them. The feedback from the social club has been fantastic. Families have been well supported. Husbands and wives come together. People who are on their own have other friends now because of the club, so they meet up now out with coming to our club. So they have that support and they have a nice environment to come to.
She's raised a substantial amount of money for Parkinson's, and I feel very, very proud of her, because I'm the only one that sees what she does behind the scenes, and although she gets a lot of credit for what she does, she deserves it. And like I said, I'm very, very proud of her.
Since losing her 22-year-old son to suicide, Laura Nolan has dedicated every second to ensuring other families do not have to face the same tragedy.
I set up the Joshua Nolan Foundation in 2014 because I'd lost my son the year before to suicide. Our aim for the foundation is to raise awareness in Scotland and to raise funds to help people get quality counselling, and also to provide workshops within schools to educate the children on mental health.
I feel it's an important service to provide. I've been a mental health practitioner for 10.5 years now, and I have witnessed many people's distress at the loss of their children and their partners by working in crisis management, counselling and psychotherapy. So having experienced that and witnessed that and supported people back to adjustment and recovery, which is, what this process is. For me, the foundation offering this is just a fantastic thing in terms of supporting and educating people in their future mental health.
The JNF's main aims are to provide funding for people who can't afford it. So if someone had gone to the doctor saying that they were suffering with depression or any other kind of mental health issue, at the moment there doesn't seem to be, the GPs don't seem to be signposting people. So a lot of people have been contacting me directly and saying that, you know, they're not getting the help that they need. Can we help them? So our job is to signpost people to the counsellors that we've got helping us, the JNF, and then they would take over from there and give them sessions of whatever kind of therapy they needed. In the 10 months since I started up the charity, I can't really believe the amount of people that have contacted me and stopped me and sent me emails, and it's quite overwhelming sometimes, but it keeps me wanting to, you know, live myself, because going through something like what I've been through, what I'm going through, it's the only thing that would make me want to keep going is to help other people, because it's so frustrating to be in a situation now where I can get help for other people, but I couldn't get any help for Josh.
Laura is remarkable in that she is day to day, she has to get up and deal with her own recovery process at the loss of Josh. She does that with integrity, compassion, bravery, and absolute tenacity daily. Her care and compassion for others and her bravery is just astounding.
Libby Clegg provided Glasgow and the world with one of the sparkling highlights of last summer's Commonwealth Games.
I've known Libby for, I would think, 13 or 14 years, since she was a youngster who was at the Royal Blind School competing in Scottish Disability Sport Athletics events. People noticed Libby very early on, and looking back in teams that have been away to things and photographs, Libby appears there as a very young athlete with more senior athletes at Scottish squads. So I think her talent was recognised early on. I don't think anyone knew she would achieve quite as much as she has, but I think she was singled out as somebody with a bright future.
The Paralympic sprinter, who is registered blind, won Scotland's first athletics gold at the event for 20 years. Libby, who has a deteriorating eye condition, burst onto the scene at just 16 years of age and has wowed athletics fans and commentators ever since.
I think Libby's got a number of qualities. She's quite bright, she's smart, and she thinks about things. I mean, she might not say that herself, but I think she is quite deep in terms of how she views her event. She prepares well and prepares thoroughly, and she's got to do that because she relies on a guide runner an event, so preparation's key. And obviously she's got an outstanding talent. I mean, she's one of the best athletes in the world, one of the best we've had for a long time. So, you know, talent mixed with, you know, determination and will to actually achieve, I think all comes together. Libby's gold medal was the first athletics gold medal we've won for 20 years. It was Yvonne Murray in 1994 the last time. We also had para-athletes in Glasgow. We had 5, which was brilliant. Again, it's 1994 since we've had a para-athlete in the Scottish team, so big steps forward. Coming into the event, Libby was favourite to win the gold medal, and I think that could have put a lot of undue pressure on her, but Libby coped very, very well with that, and there was no talk about what I was going to do with her else. She just focused and prepared, and she delivered on the day, which, you know, brought a huge cheer around about Hampden, lifted the whole of the Scottish team and hopefully the nation. And you know, hopefully Libby will reap the rewards of that, you know, and be a good memory to look back on.
In addition to Commonwealth gold, she has 2 Paralympic Games silvers, a World Championship gold and a European Championship gold under her belt. Libby is also an ambassador for the Royal Blind charity and an inspiration to all young people, disabled and able-bodied, considering taking up sport.
I think she is a role model for anybody, regardless of whether they've got a disability or not. Libby's overcome a number of things and deals with things in a very matter-of-fact way, has found plenty of ways of coping with things that may be obstacles, which is something that everybody has to do in life, whether you've got a disability or not. And I think she's shown that, you know, you can achieve if you work hard.
2014 was a remarkable year for Nicola Sturgeon, Scotland's first female First Minister. Since the referendum, she has seized the political initiative, pushing for more powers for Scotland and inspiring many across the country.
It's a huge honour, and I was very surprised when I heard that I had been nominated. You know, the Evening Times is a really important paper to me as a Glasgow MSP, as somebody who lives in Glasgow, so it's important to me to have the recognition of that paper. But to be nominated amongst such an amazing group of women is both an honour and a privilege, but it's also very humbling. And when I look at some of the other nominees, I have to say I feel slightly unworthy. I'm a politician. Many of them have campaigned and done quite extraordinary things.
I've known Nicola since I joined the SNP in 1988, when we were both a wee bit younger than we are at the moment. Nicola was in her teens and I was in my early 20s. She's one of the first people that I met through the Young Scottish Nationalists, but I could see straight away that she was someone who was going to go far, and of course that's absolutely turned out to be the case.
Well, becoming First Minister, you know, you can't really see beyond that. That was such a special moment for me, for my family, and a huge responsibility, but you know, just the biggest privilege that you could ever imagine having. Obviously the referendum campaign in 2014 was an experience I will never forget. Although the result wasn't quite what I wanted it to be, the whole experience of the referendum was probably the most special thing I've ever been involved in. Just, you know, the country was alive, people were engaged, enthused. You know, on more than one occasion I described the country as being like a big public meeting, and that's what it was like, and it was an incredible thing to be part of. So yes, 2014, an amazing year, a year that I will never ever forget for as long as I live.
She's actually a very warm person, but someone who gives you time if you've got a problem. You know, she will give you time and she'll ask about family, she'll ask how you're doing, and I think that's really recognised and appreciated, because politics can be quite a tough old game, and I think sometimes having someone that you know you can turn to if you have a problem is very important. And despite her being extremely busy, firstly as Deputy First Minister and as First Minister, she does give people the time when they need it, and I think that's appreciated by her colleagues.
Well, to hear myself described as a role model for other women is a huge responsibility. I have been really moved and really touched since I became First Minister by the number of women and girls who've got in touch with me to say that it meant something important to them, and that's very special. But it does mean that I feel very acutely the added burden of responsibility, and I mean that in an entirely positive way. I really hope that I can send a message to young girls that's quite a simple but very powerful message, and that is, if you work hard enough, if you're good enough, then nothing should hold you back in life. There certainly should be no glass ceiling stopping you from achieving your dreams, and if I can persuade another girl, and hopefully more than one in Scotland, that you know the sky is the limit, then I'll feel very happy.
Teenager Mark Scott was murdered on a Glasgow street simply because of the football team he supported. It was neither the police nor the politicians who were first to take a stand. It was a 15-year-old girl called Cara Henderson.
When I heard that I was nominated for Scotswoman of the Year, I suppose my first reaction was surprise, shock, and then very quickly delight, pleasure. It's, you know, it's an honour, so I couldn't not be.
Cara deserves to be nominated for this award because of the remarkable changes that she's put into place in Scotland. Cara was the little girl who dared to stand up to the noise and the anger around sectarianism and asked us to challenge it. She was the little whisper of hope among the noise and the anger and the aggression, asking us, have things always been this way? Can things not be a bit better? She's been an inspiration to those of us behind Nil by Mouth ever since she set the charity up. We're now 15 years old. We're tackling sectarianism in schools, communities, workplaces. All of it because of a little girl's inspiration.
I set up Nil by Mouth following the sectarian motivated murder of my then school friend Mark Scott, and at the time there were very few people who were speaking about sectarianism and bigotry, and I didn't understand why it wasn't more of an issue, why people weren't saying, hang on a minute, it's a bit like racism, why is it acceptable to make these jokes? And so yeah, it was a reaction to to the events of my life, and also just looking around and thinking something's not quite right here.
Cara's greatest achievement, I think, with Nail by Mouth has been to take this issue of sectarianism from something that we buried away and didn't talk about. She brought it into the open. She forced us to confront it. She took it from the back pages to the front pages, from the margins to the mainstream. Since Cara set the charity up, we've been campaigning in schools, communities, workplaces, right across Scotland, trying to bring home the message that difference is nothing to be frightened of. Cara helped Scotland find her voice in this huge issue, and not to be frightened by the loud, angry voices that tell us things have always been this way. Cara is courageous, passionate, brave and truthful. She's an inspiration to people. She was brave enough to stand up and be counted in this issue, to do something positive from the tragic death of her friend, to ask us the big questions, the important questions. When people shouted at her, when people abused her, when people told her, who was she to do this? She still challenged it. With the strength, with the wisdom, with an honesty, with an integrity that everyone that meets her is impressed by.
I do feel that Nail by Mouth has made a difference. I mean, I think sectarianism in Scotland isn't what it was. For starters, it's more out in the open now. I think things have changed remarkably, probably more than what I certainly would have hoped, but deep down I probably wouldn't have believed it would have made the difference that it has, and that's thanks to the help of many people who have worked for Nail by Mouth over the years, and particularly going in their work and going out to do workshops with children, speak to children, and I mean they're full of hope and they are the future. So.
Faced with a situation which looks hopeless, Phyllis Krieg gives hope. The chairperson of Clydeside Action on Asbestos has been fighting for the rights of people affected by asbestos poisoning for more than 2 decades.
When I first heard I had been nominated for Scotswoman of the Year, I couldn't believe it. I thought that a mistake had been made and that it just couldn't be me. I was honoured, truly honoured, but I thought, I can't quite believe why I would be nominated.
I nominated Phyllis because I felt she deserved some recognition for all the work she's done over the last 20 years. I have been coming here for 3 years, and every time I've had a problem with the cancer-related disease, she has come to the fore and assisted me beyond the call of duty.
I think in the last 20 years the charity has made a big difference. We now have more staff, we've had the most legislation passed in the Scottish Parliament, above all other causes, and this has only been to the benefit of our people.
The difference they make is unbelievable to people's lives. We have a support group that meets all over the country once a month. We have one in Falkirk, there's one in Ayr, there's one in Aberdeen, one in Edinburgh. And all these people have the same problems. So you're able to discuss it with each other and say, this is what I do, silly things. This is what I do, this helps me, etc. And you go away with some ideas that may help your condition. Phyllis has enormous dedication, enormous caring ability, and enormous fighting ability.
We've really got to be a jack of all trades. We specialise in obtaining welfare benefit entitlement for those who have an asbestos condition. We still have to apply for funding, we have to work on legislation, we have to try and make changes to legislation, and whatever the insurance industry place upon us in terms of obstacles, we have to fight that. What drives the people who work here, and especially myself, is that these people have a condition caused through no fault of their own. How can that feel to people to have someone who's now terminally ill and they haven't done anything wrong, all they did was go out and work? And here they're placed with obstacles at trying to get their compensation, and it means that you really want to try hard and make sure you can do what you can for them, because you can't cure them. We can be there to listen to them, we can get them compensation.
Phyllis is the kind of person who never ever gives up.